See you next month. Rock and roll.
We are today with my good friend. He's actually a partner in our enterprise, Dave Scrivines, who is the Red Sox scout in the area. Just incidentally, I met Dave, gosh, it's getting in the range of 6-7 years ago. I was working at a tryout for the Atlantic League's Bridgeport Bluefish, and Dave was there, and we met. And for a long time, we had this dream of what it all started with was at that tryout, a guy came up to me and he said, "Why did I get cut? Why didn't I make it?" And I thought, boy, there's an avenue here, not only for us, but we're really providing a service to the players because they don't know. They go. This goes for college as well. They go to these darn things. They get a T-shirt. And not much else. If they don't make it, they don't know why. There's no feedback. I think it's okay if you don't make it. If you view that as a learning experience and you view that as gathering information, okay, why didn't I make it? With this particular player, we said, well, you threw 83, we're looking for 87. Now that's the kind of information you can take back and do something about. And that's the service that we're trying to provide. Now, before I get into it with Dave, he knows more about this stuff than I do. As you know, the professional baseball world has been turned completely upside down, and boy, it's just a horrible thing. They've cut minor leaguers and cut the draft. They're going to contract minor league baseball and all that stuff, and it's changed. Dave and I actually did an original video a couple of weeks ago, and it's changed dramatically since then. So without further ado, Dave, what is the status at the moment? What's going on with minor league baseball?
Yeah, so some of the independent league teams and leagues are playing at this point, and it's none of the leagues are playing in full. It's more patched together. Some of the American Association teams are playing. A few of the Atlantic League and Frontier League teams are doing showcases or some games against teams that have been put together. But that's the main thing right now in the independent leagues. The Pecos League is playing right now, and as far as affiliated, everything's off. Minor league affiliated for this year, so there's not a whole lot going on right now.
Okay, question number one. So the Pecos, any other, like you said, there's a little bit going on with the Frontier League, right?
Yeah, a few of the teams have put together, I don't want to call them showcases, but they're hosting some games. Joliet's hosting some games at their park. Washington's hosting some games at their park. And it's really like 3 or 4 days a week they're playing. It's pretty, for the most part, I believe 2 teams, maybe 3 teams that are just playing doubleheaders a couple of days a week and trying to give as many players the chance to play as possible, and also allow some fans into the ballpark as well. I just saw this morning Somerset announced they're going to start playing some games in a couple weeks with 2 teams that they've created with some of their existing players, and then some other local players that have the ability to commute to the ballpark from home, sort of thing. So a lot of the teams are really looking for local guys who can commute. Obviously, there's no host housing, and they're trying to keep everybody safe and minimize risk as much as possible.
I did see something. United Shores is going to play a little bit.
United Shores has started already, so they started a few days ago. I believe no fans, and they still have a lot of restrictions up there in Michigan. But my understanding is they've been playing for a few days already and will continue to play.
What about Empire?
Empire, I'm not I'm not aware of right now.
All right, so I'm going to throw in my editorial with this. I am just heartbroken by this. I'm obviously not a player or administrative or coaching personnel, but I grew up with minor league baseball. I grew up in the Quad Cities on the Iowa side of the Mississippi River. There is a park there they've been playing minor league ball in that area literally since 1890. And I went to probably minimum 90% of the home games in that park. They were a White Sox affiliate, then Braves, then Angels. Now they are the Quad City River Bandits. And I just can't believe for two things, not only the opportunities for the players, but also for those towns and also what it offers to the people at all across the United States at a base level. My son, for instance, he lives in Albany, New York. I don't know if that franchise do you know if Albany's being eliminated?
I believe they're on the list.
Okay, so what that means is and he's got season tickets. So what that means is if he wants to watch a professional ball game, he's got to drive 3 hours to either Boston or New York, spend a minimum of $300 for parking and tickets, and then that really good tasting $20 hot dog. And what's a beer now? $50? It's just it's horrible. Now, but the issue that we're dealing with is the players. So Major League Baseball has not only with this, but they have cut the draft down and they have cut players and they're and what are they going and they're going to contract teams. Now, is this a done deal? Is this for sure done at this point for next year?
I'm not sure. I would imagine Major League Baseball makes some sort of announcement, at some point, probably later in the summer.
But it really is a fait accompli. Yes.
That's what it seems. That's what it seems like.
Okay. Now, one of the things we have acquired also, which I think is great. There's a guy named Joe Torre, runs an organization named the Black Sox, which I was actually at a tryout for the Rockland Boulders a couple of years ago, and a mutual friend of ours, Kevin Tuve, said, "You got to talk to this guy." And he runs something really unique. I don't know what else to call it. It's a developmental situation, league, organization for the indie leagues, where guys that didn't get drafted can continue to develop, and then they can showcase themselves in front of independent organization. They play, for lack of another term, they barnstorm against some of these teams, and I think it's a hell of a great thing. But what other? Geez, there's so many guys that are turned out that just don't have anywhere to go. Do you have any suggestions for this?
Obviously, like Joe does a great job with his group, and it is a barnstorming group, and he gets guys in front of so many independent league teams and affiliated, and in a regular season, we'll get out there in March and April and May, and pretty much like every day play games against teams in the American Association, Frontier, Pacific, Atlantic.
Oh, you and I have sent players to him already that have successfully picked up on waves. But is there any suggestion you can make to these guys that suddenly find themselves at a developmental snag in their career and now they don't know where to go?
The main thing is just trying to figure out where each player is and what they need to do to move forward to advance their career, whether it's getting from independent to affiliated or getting from unsigned into the independent leagues. It's really a matter of just trying to be evaluated, get some feedback. Some players know, hey, here's what I have to do, I need to perform, and other players need that evaluation so they can get the feedback, so they can, as you alluded to it earlier in the show, like ultimately it's a matter of saying, here's where I need to get, and like, here's how I'm going to get there, and here's my plan to get there. So the feedback's important, but also like just trying to be real with yourself and say like, hey, what is it that's holding me back? Like, what do I need to improve on? What are my strengths? Guys get to affiliated like based on what they do, but sometimes what they don't do also factors in. So, the main thing is just playing to your strengths, but also say, hey, this is what's holding me back.
Well, again, and to put in a little plug for what we do, that's what we offer. Is instead of going to one of these things, packing up your gear in the back of the car and heading out to the next one, that's what our intention is to do, is to evaluate and tell you what you do, where your game is at, and what you can do to improve, and try to turn your weaknesses into strengths. There's, in this game, especially at this level, a 5% improvement in your game is monstrous. 10% is off the charts. And another thing we stress, and we can do that, and we can evaluate you and tell you this honestly, with our experience level, with our staff, we can tell you honestly what's holding you up. Why are you not getting looks? How can you stand out? And I also think that a big thing that we have acquired over the last several years is mental stuff. And how much, I'll give it to you, how much you give up by a lack of preparation, or instead of going to the plate with a plan and being, not being confident, how many at bats you give up, how many balls you give up defensively. These things are monstrous, and they can make or break a career. They can make you get signed or not. I was doing a clinic the other day, and I was talking about speed, and I was talking about how correct running mechanics and explosive start can give you. One thing I always do in clinics, I say, how many times did you get thrown out of first base by a step? What if I give you that step? What if I give you that step, and in a 50-game season, all of a sudden you've got 5 or 6 more hits? The statistic I always use is Craig Biggio. One year, Craig Biggio made the All-Star team. He hit .314, and listen to this. He had 65 infield hits. Now in the big leagues, what is that? That's 100, and that's 65 hits. That how many points on a batting average is that? That's monstrous.
Well, I always remember on baseball cards, guys that had, over 175 hits in a season. That was a lot. And a lot of the leaders would have like 200 hits. I just remember that, not even from scouting, but just looking at the back of baseball cards. And so if a guy's hitting over 300 and he's got almost 200 hits, and a third of those are infield hits, like that's crucial. That's the difference between, a weak batting average, somebody hitting 200 versus being over 300. So that's from being poor as far as production to being, well above average.
And I misspoke. And I've used that so often. I apologize for misspeaking. He had 38 infield hits. That's at the big league level. That's
still a lot. It's still a lot.
Hey, that's 76 points on your batting average.
Yeah.
76 points. He goes from hitting .314 and making the All-Star team to hitting .240.
Yeah.
Think about that. It's monstrous. In the field, an explosive first step can give you a full step in range to the right and left. It can give you 6 feet deeper on the outfield. think about, you and I were at a tryout in New Rochelle a couple of years ago. Classic example is about 12 guys in the outfield playing from right field to third base. And everybody was consistently mid-80s, mid to high 80s in that throw. And one guy comes up and he threw 92. Now that's an increase of 4 or 5 miles an hour, but boy, it stands out. And those are the things that not only you can do, but you should do right now. Am I correct?
Yeah, and the other thing too is, moving forward with baseball, everything's going to be more competitive because there's, going to be less opportunities, and the supply or the amount of players trying to get those opportunities is going to increase. So it's going to be more players for less opportunities, which means it's going to be more competitive. So then it's a matter of, trying to do something to separate yourself. And the whole thing with evaluation and feedback, and kind of tying in with the last example, was if you have speed, like one of the things, if you're not a power guy, you got to be able to put the ball on the ground and beat out, get a fair amount of infield hits, drag, bunt. Like I've seen guys in the Atlantic League who said, hey, you know what? I've got plus speed. I've got to utilize that and use it to my advantage to get on base. Because now, like, who cares how you get on base, whether it's an infield hit, a walk, a single, hit by pitch. Getting on base is getting on base. It's not like, remember, like a long time ago as a youngster, like in Little League, if you walked, you almost felt, well, I didn't really get on base because I didn't get a hit. Like, but you got on base, whether it's a walk or a hit, you're getting on base. So it's all those little things that those are separators. So it's all important. Everything's important. Everything counts.
Getting on base, contact, high pitch counts. So you help other guys see what the guy, you get to the bullpen quicker. All those things are things that can separate a player and raise his value. Just, on the running thing, I want to make a comment at some of the tryouts and showcases that you and I have done together. I've seen guys, if you have a guy that really stands out in a 60, really stands out, runs a 6'5", 6'4", they are going to get extra looks because, their athletic ability makes them stand out.
Yeah, and that's whether it's a showcase or a tryout, we're looking for tools and those type of things. So if you have a plus tool, whether it's plus speed, whether it's a plus arm, whether it's plus power, whatever it is, like that gets somebody's attention. Right. And if I see a guy with a plus arm, I'm going to want to see, all right, now what else can he do? And then you start to kind of like profile a guy, like as far as like where would he fit position wise? Could he play this position? Can he play that position? Okay, can do these two things. Those versatility guys are important. So those are the things that kind of catch somebody's attention, and then it merits further evaluation to see what else they can do.
I was going to make one other comment that you and I talked about with some of the players that we've worked with, and that is to play, keep playing. We have run across players, some guys that have been in pro ball, for whatever reason they get caught or something happens, and you get the remark when they come to us for advice and help, and they say, well, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna sit and wait. And that's not the people that we deal with, people like yourself and the people who run these teams, that's one of the first things they're going to ask is, where are you playing? What are you doing? You want to keep your game fresh. And I hate to say this, but keep your game fresh. Get into a damn men's league someplace. Do something that keeps your game sharp.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because everybody's going to ask, hey, where did you play last year? So it's better to be playing somewhere than nowhere, even if somewhere isn't your ideal as far as where you'd like to be playing. It's it's more important to kind of like keep things going and so that you're playing. So there's your timing's there. And so if an opportunity arises, you don't say, hey, you know what, I haven't been doing anything the last 3 months versus, hey, I'm playing in a league. Like, doesn't matter what league you're playing in as long as you're playing.
Well, and the other thing is that wherever you are, if you really want to play at the next level, whatever that is, you've got to dominate where
Yep.
you're at. You've got, we sent a player to the Pecos League last year, decent college player, and he actually did okay. He went there, he hit over 300, but he didn't realize that these leagues are what I call waiver wire leagues. There's so much flux, there's so much movement of personnel, that he was released after a week, and he was furious and confused what the hell happened. And and I do, for as long as we've been doing this, wherever you have, you better be on top of your game and you better look to dominate. That's how you do two things. That's how you stay where you are, and that's how you move up. You want somebody to say, that guy's better than this level. He deserves a shot at the next level.
Yeah, and most teams, whether it's independent or whatever level it is, are looking for guys that can make the team better, not guys that'll say like, hey, I'm just as good as so-and-so. Well, if a team invests a certain amount into a player, they're not going to release that guy to bring in someone just as good. But if you're better, then you have a chance where they'll bring you in. But the other thing too is, and I always say this as a coach in other sports, like, leave no doubt about, your performance and that sort of thing. So when somebody's saying, hey, do I sign this guy or not? Do I release this guy or not? Make it so you're not on the fence, so that there's no doubt that you belong. There's no doubt that you performed well enough so that there's not that chance that you could get released or not make the team, that sort of thing. So it goes back to like dominate and put up great numbers, be ready for the opportunity. But once you get that opportunity, make the most of it. And sometimes in the independent leagues, an opportunity might be 3, 4, 5 games. It's not going to be a huge window where a team says, all right, you're here for 45 games, that sort of thing. A guy might be on the 10-day injured list, and you might have 10 days, and that's your opportunity. So, like, sometimes players say, hey, I didn't get enough of a chance. Well, you've got to make the best with the chance that you're given, because it might not be a big chance. It might be 3 games, 4 games, 5 games.
Now, this is, I remember, I don't know how many years it's going back, between 3 and 5, there was 500 guys at the Frontier League tryouts. When you and I did Atlantic League and we did just the Bluefish, they would commonly get 75 players. So you get a tryout. Think about that. Frontier League, 500 players. Boy, you better be at the top of your game. You better be ready to produce. You better be ready to dominate and take advantage of every opportunity. So it goes back to, again, I'm putting in a little shot for us, but that's what we can do. We can help with the evaluation, somehow get somebody to give an objective evaluation of where you're at and where you need to be, so you can strive for that.
Yeah, and the most important thing, like you mentioned, that tryout where there's anywhere from 300 to 500 people, the worst thing that can happen as a player is say, hey, this is my strength, whether it's speed, whether it's, defense, and then leave a tryout saying, I didn't really show my arm, or I didn't really. So you want to make sure that during that tryout, whatever it is that you do really well, you show that, as opposed to saying like, hey, like I went to the tryout and I'm a speed guy and a defender, but I didn't get a chance to show my speed or that sort of thing. So that's where it's important to know what you do well, and then make sure, hey, if you have an arm during infield and outfield, air out the arm so people can see what your arm. Same thing on the running. Make sure you're showing your speed. If whatever it is that you do, make sure you show that.
Well, and there's a final factor in this is that you get on the radar. And what happens is, I remember we sent a player down. He went to work out at Florence last year, and then he headed for the Pecos League. And he called me up and he said, "Well, why did I go there? They just worked me out." I said, "But now they know you. They have, so when you do those things, when you show yourself off at those things, and there's a need sometime down the line, especially with situations with conduits like Joe Torre crates and everything, there are opportunities that can come up. Always show off your best."
Yeah, and even especially with the independents, a lot of times a team doesn't have an opportunity or a need, but 99% of the time they're going to have a need at some point that season.
Right.
So managers are always creating pref lists and saying, all right, here's, if this guy gets signed, here's our first choice, second choice. Like they literally will have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys lined up, and that they're monitoring. I know some independent league managers that might be monitoring as many as 100 players that are unsigned, or maybe in a league that they think they could grab them from a league that feeds up. So it's really important that on these workouts, even if there's no opportunity, a manager might work you out and then say, "Hey, I don't have anything, but my friend manages a team in this other league. He has an opportunity."
Absolutely.
And a lot of times managers will place a call, text message, email, and say, "Hey, I'm looking for, a middle infielder, like with a whatever, like with a plus glove or something." And usually somebody can recommend somebody. And a lot of times they might have a bunch of choices because people know of players. So it's a matter of, part of it's timing, part of it's trying to get out there and go to as many workouts as you can in a smart way, though, because obviously it's tricky, like driving from one place to the next. So try to do it as efficiently as possible, but be seen, because a lot of times, and we've seen it a lot, where, hey, how'd this player end up on this team? Oh, a friend of this person called this person and they got wrecked. There's always some long backstory. So the bottom line is, like, be ready, and you never know, like, who could see you or where that next opportunity could come from.
When I was a kid and I played through college, and I got hurt all the time, which abbreviated my career. But something that my dad told me says, always be sharp. You never know who's watching you. You never know where an opportunity exists, either now or down the line, and establish a brand for who you are.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. I think that about covers it for today. We're going to do some follow-up on this. I'm going to have Alberto, our friend Alberto Martinez, who is the head of player development for the Bluefish, on, and we'll get back together as the season progresses. But the bottom line with this, in a variety of forms, is always be on top of your game. If you need help evaluating, do that, and look for a fit. Look for what they're looking for and be that player, and always be dominant. Do you agree?
Absolutely.
All right, Dave. Dave and I are friends, so thanks, and everybody out there, we'll be back to you as soon as possible. Thanks.